Beloved, listen to me carefully today. Many people love God, truly love God, and yet they are exhausted. Not because they are doing nothing, but because they are doing too many things that were never assigned to them. They are busy, but they are not aligned. They are moving, but they are not finishing. And the danger is this: you can spend your whole life doing good works and still miss the work you were sent to complete. You can be everywhere, helping everyone, carrying burdens, opening doors, supporting projects, yet your own assignment stays unfinished. There is a sentence that should shake our hearts awake. It is not a sentence of fear, it is a sentence of purpose. Jesus lifted his eyes and said, I have glorified you on the earth by finishing the work you gave me to do. That means heaven gives work. Heaven gives an assignment. And heaven expects a finish. Notice the words, not a work, the work. Not what people demanded. Not what crowds expected. Not what looked impressive. Not what created applause. But the work given from above. And if the Son of God spoke about a specific assignment, do you think your life is random? Do you think your calling is vague? No, my friend. There is something on your life that only you can carry, only you can complete. Some of you are tired because you say yes too quickly. You say yes to pressure, yes to comparison, yes to urgency that did not come from God. And distraction is clever. It does not come wearing the clothes of sin. Sometimes it comes wearing the clothes of service. It comes with a smile. It comes with a need. It comes with a compliment. You're the only one who can do it. And before you know it, your hands are full, but your spirit is empty. Let me say it simply, not every good opportunity is your calling. Opportunity can be loud, calling can be quiet. Opportunity pulls you outward, calling anchors you inward. Opportunity says, start another thing. Calling says, finish what you began. And why does finishing matter so much? Because unfinished assignments create unfinished seasons. They keep doors half open. They keep your mind divided. They drain your oil. But when you finish what God assigned, something happens. Clarity comes like light. Peace settles in the heart. Strength returns to the bones. Focus brings power, because focus gathers your whole life into one direction. There is a time for everything. There is a season for every purpose. And not every season requires your involvement, but your assignment requires your devotion. Your destiny does not need you to be everywhere. It needs you to be faithful where you are called. So today, I want to ask you not to condemn you, but to awaken you. What is the work you were called to do on earth? What did God place in your hands that you keep postponing while you chase? What is in somebody else's hands? What is the one thing heaven is waiting for you to complete? Because one day, like Paul, we want to say with a clean conscience, I have finished my race. Not a half race, not a distracted race, a finished race. And when you finish, you don't just feel relief, you release glory to God. Beloved, you were not sent to do everything. You were sent to do something specific. Find it. Guard it. Put your whole heart into it. And finish it before you start carrying what was never assigned to you. Key point number 1 is simple to hear, but difficult to live. Not every good work is your work. Many sincere people confuse goodness with guidance. They see a need, feel compassion, notice an open door, and assume that the presence of an opportunity automatically means permission, responsibility, and calling. But a life can be spent answering every alarm and still never complete the one assignment that truly belongs to you. Goodness is broad. Calling is specific. Goodness says someone should do something. Calling says, I am the someone for this, and I must finish it. Think about how people get pulled in many directions. Some are driven by guilt. If they don't help, they feel selfish. Some are driven by fear. If they say no, they will lose approval, connection, or reputation. Some are driven by ego. Being needed feels like being valued. And some are driven by confusion. They have not clearly defined what their life is centered on, so every urgent request becomes their new center. In all these cases, the heart is often kind, but the focus is scattered. When focus is scattered, strength is diluted. A specific assignment means there is a boundary around your responsibility. Boundaries are not barriers to love. They are channels for effective love. A river without banks becomes a swamp. In the same way, compassion without direction can become emotional exhaustion. When you try to carry everything, you end up carrying nothing well. The quality of your contribution drops, your peace disappears, and your relationships begin to suffer. You become reactive instead of purposeful. Not every good work is your work also protects you from comparison. Comparison is a subtle thief because it disguises itself as inspiration. You see what another person is building, leading, or achieving, and you feel pressure to imitate. But imitation can be disobedience when it pulls you away from what you were designed to do. People are uniquely wired, different gifts, different temperaments, different histories, different burdens they can carry with grace. When you chase another person's lane, you abandon your own, and the world loses the particular contribution you alone can make. This key point teaches discernment. Discernment is not cynicism, it is wisdom in motion. It asks, is this mine to do now? Does this align with the core purpose entrusted to me? Will saying yes to this cause me to break promises I have already made? Am I responding out of love or out of anxiety? These questions turn your choices from emotional to intentional. Discernment also recognizes seasons. There are times when you can take on extra responsibility and times when you must protect what you are building. A mature person learns to say, this is important, but it is not mine, without becoming cold-hearted. A personal assignment also means stewardship. You are not the owner of your life, you are the manager of it. Time, energy, attention, relationships, and resources are limited. If you pour them into everything, you will have little left for what matters most. Many people do not fail because they are lazy. They fail because they are overcommitted. They start many things, maintain many obligations, and wonder why nothing becomes excellent. Excellence usually requires narrowing. Depth usually requires limits. Completion requires sustained attention with quiet confidence. Notice how distractions often arrive as good things. They are not obvious temptations, they are respectable. They come as requests to join, to lead, to fix, to assist. They come as invitations that flatter your identity. They come as emergencies that make you feel indispensable. And over time, they can shape a lifestyle where you are constantly responding to other people's priorities, while your own assignment remains postponed. The tragedy is not that you did wrong things, it is that you did right things in the wrong order. This is why learning to say no is a spiritual skill and a practical skill. A healthy no is not rejection, it is alignment. It is a yes to your deepest responsibility. When you say no to what is not yours, you make room to say yes to what is. And when you say yes to what is yours, you begin to build momentum. Momentum grows when daily actions agree with long-term purpose. It creates confidence, clarity, and a sense of direction, but how do you recognize what is truly yours? Often it is the burden you carry even when nobody is watching. It is the work that feels difficult but meaningful. It is the area where your abilities meet real need and where your heart stays engaged over time. It is also confirmed by fruit when you invest. There people benefit, you grow, and the results endure. Your assignment is rarely only about personal success. It usually includes service, but service that fits your unique design. Living this key point also requires humility. Sometimes we overstep because we secretly believe Everything depends on us. Humility remembers that the world does not rest on your shoulders. There are other capable people. There are other hands, other voices, other solutions. When you release what is not yours, you create space for others to rise, learn, and contribute. You stop rescuing people from responsibilities that could mature them. Finally, this key point brings peace because it replaces scattered striving with focused faithfulness. You may still work hard, but you work with direction. You may still help others, but you help without abandoning your core task. You may still be busy, but you are busy with purpose. Over time, you become known not just for enthusiasm, but for completion, and completion is a form of integrity. It shows that you honor what you start, you respect the trust placed in you, and you value the limited days you have been given. When you accept that not every good work is your work, you stop living in perpetual guilt and begin living in deliberate obedience, choosing what to carry, what to release, and what to finish. Key point number 2 confronts a common illusion. Business looks like faithfulness, but business is not the same as completion. Many people feel productive because their calendar is full, their phone never stops, their mind is always racing, and their hands are constantly moving. Yet a full life is not automatically a finished life. You can be busy and still be drifting. The deeper truth is that progress is not measured by how many things you touch, but by whether you bring the right things to a clear, finished outcome. Business is easy to mistake for purpose because it creates the sensation of importance. When you are needed, requested, and depended on, you feel validated. When you are constantly responding, you feel useful. But constant motion can become a way to avoid the one task that truly demands your focus. Business can become a hiding place. It keeps you from facing hard decisions, difficult conversations, and deep work. It whispers, "I would finish, but I don't have time." And that whisper can slowly become a lifestyle where beginnings multiply and endings disappear. Completion is different. Completion has weight. It requires you to choose, to prioritize, to say no, to return, to refine, and to stay until the task has integrity. Completion demands patience because most meaningful work involves repetition, showing up again, when the excitement has faded, continuing, when the results are slow, and persevering when nobody is applauding. Business thrives on novelty, completion thrives on commitments. Business loves quick wins, completion loves lasting fruit. Many people are tired not because they are doing too little, but because they are doing too much of what is not truly theirs. There is a special kind of fatigue that comes from misalignment. When you spend your strength on tasks that do not connect to your central purpose, your soul feels friction. Even if the tasks are good, they can still drain you if they are not yours. You can feel depleted even after a successful day because success in the wrong direction still leaves you empty. Misaligned business is like walking fast on the wrong road. You arrive exhausted and still not where you needed to be. Completion brings rest even when the work is demanding because the work fits. When you are aligned, effort becomes meaningful. You can be tired in your body and still peaceful in your heart. But when you are scattered, you can rest physically and still feel anxious inside because unfinished things haunt you. Unfinished commitments create mental noise. They sit in the background of your thoughts like open tabs, consuming attention and leaking energy. This is why people who start many things often feel overwhelmed. Incompletion multiplies invisible pressure. Business also creates the illusion of contributions. You can attend many meetings, send many messages, join many initiatives, volunteer for many responsibilities, and still not move the needles where it matters most. Activity can be a substitute for impact. Impact usually comes from finishing, delivering the report, closing the loop. resolving the issue, completing the plan, building the system, or completing the relationship repair. Finished work becomes a foundation others can stand on. Boozy work often leaves others with loose ends. Another reason business deceives is that it is socially rewarded. People praise the one who is always on, always available, always running. In many environments, saying, "I'm busy," is treated like a badge of honor. But this reward can be dangerous because it trains you to perform for applause rather than to labor for completion. You begin to measure your worth by how much you are doing, instead of by how faithfully you are finishing what you were meant to do. Over time, you might fear slowing down because slowing down exposes what is incomplete. Completion requires clarity. If you don't know what done looks like, you will never feel done. So the pursuit of completion forces you to define outcomes. It teaches you to ask, what is the goal of this task? What is the standard? What does success look like in practical terms? When is it complete? These questions turn vague effort into focused execution. They also protect you from perfectionism. Perfectionism keeps many people busy forever because they keep polishing what they should release. Completion is not endless improvement. It is reaching the required finish with excellence and honesty. This key point also reshapes how you help others. Business often says yes to everyone and ends up helping no one deeply. Completion teaches you to help in ways that actually solve problems. Sometimes the most loving thing is not to add more tasks to your life, but to finish the task already in your hands so that you have real capacity to serve with strength. It also teaches you to empower others rather than to carry everything yourself. When you insist on being involved in everything, you may unknowingly block others from growing. Completion frees you to delegate, to trust, and to allow shared responsibility. Practically choosing completion over business means you begin to protect focus. You reduce unnecessary switching because switching has a cost. Every time you jump between tasks, you pay with attention, and attention is a limited resource. You also begin to close loops, quick follow-ups, clear decisions, completed deliverables, and honest conversations that you stop postponing. You build habits that move work from in progress to finished. This creates momentum and confidence. Finishing one meaningful thing often produces more peace than starting 10 exciting things. When you understand that completion matters more than business, you stop chasing the feeling of being important and start pursuing the reality of being faithful. You become less reactive and more intentional. You set boundaries, you define priorities, and you commit to finishing what you start. And as your life becomes more complete, your strength returns, your mind becomes quieter, your relationships become steadier, and your days begin to carry a sense of purposeful direction that business can never provide for you and others. Key point number 3 shows the clearest model of a purposeful life. Jesus lived with a definite assignment and a finished outcome. He did not drift from one good activity to another as though life were a collection of random duties. He moved as someone sent, guided by a mission that had a direction, a cost, and a completion. This matters because many people admire purpose but avoid the discipline of finishing. They want meaning without narrowing, influence without endurance, and fruit without faithful follow-through. In his example, you see that purpose is not mainly about being admired or staying busy. It is about fulfilling what was entrusted, even when the road is demanding. First, notice that his life was not ruled by popularity. Needs were everywhere, expectations were loud, and opportunities to do more never stopped. Yet he was not controlled by the urgent noise around him. He served people deeply, but he did not allow demands to rewrite his direction. This distinction is vital. Compassion is love that aligns with mission, while distraction is activity that steals mission. Many people confuse the two, then wonder why their lives feel scattered. The model here teaches that a focused life can still be a loving life, and that boundaries can protect the strength needed to serve well. Second, the example shows that finishing is built on repeated obedience in ordinary moments. Many imagine that calling is one dramatic decision, but finishing is often many quiet decisions. There were countless days of steady faithfulness, choosing the right response, maintaining inner discipline, continuing when misunderstood, and staying consistent when results looked slow. Purpose is not only a spotlight, it is a lamp that guides the next step. When you see that, you stop waiting for a perfect feeling and start living by a settled commitment. Third, his model reveals that completion requires courage when suffering appears. There were seasons of opposition, betrayal, loneliness, and misunderstanding. Yet he did not abandon his assignment to escape pain. Many people change direction when discomfort increases, not because the assignment changed, but because the cost became visible. They start strong when it is exciting and retreat when it becomes demanding. The lesson is that difficulty does not automatically prove you are off course. Sometimes the hardest road is the one that leads to the truest finish. Finishing requires strength deeper than emotion. It requires conviction. Fourth, his life demonstrates that finishing comes from inner alignment, not outer convenience. The world often waits for perfect conditions, more time, more support, more certainty. But a mission-driven life moves forward even when conditions are imperfect. This does not mean being reckless. It means refusing to become a prisoner of ideal circumstances. When your heart knows what you are here to do, you can face delays, criticism, and fatigue without losing direction. When you do not know your assignment, even small problems become reasons to quit. Clarity is not a luxury, it is fuel. Fifth, his example makes it clear that finishing requires saying no to certain good things to say yes to the best thing. There were invitations, pressures, and even well-meaning attempts to redirect him, but he did not let external voices become the steering wheel of his life. Many people measure success by being constantly available, but availability is not the same as obedience. Sometimes you must step away from the crowd to protect the work you are called to complete. Sometimes you must disappoint people to honor the responsibility entrusted to you. This is not arrogance, it is stewardship. A person who tries to belong everywhere often ends up completing nothing. Sixth, the model teaches that completion is more than finishing tasks. It is completing purpose. Completion is not merely checking boxes. It is fulfilling the intent behind the work with integrity. That is why finishing is spiritual. It involves trust, surrender, and perseverance. Business may impress people, but completion blesses them. You can start many projects and still leave a trail of loose ends, but when you finish what you were meant to finish, you leave something stable that others can build on. Seventh, his life shows that you do not finish by willpower alone. Finishing flows from an inner life that is sustained. There was a rhythm of withdrawal and return, silence and speech, prayer and actions. Without that rhythm, even strong people burn out. Many attempt to finish through pressure, self-criticism, and frantic energies. That might create short bursts, but it rarely produces a faithful finish. A life that finishes well learns how to renew strength, refocus attention, and continue with a steady spirit. Eighth, the example confronts a culture that celebrates starting more than finishing. People love new plans, new seasons, and beginnings. But unfinished ideas become burdens. Unkept promises weaken credibility. Half-built visions create frustration. The model here shows that honor is not measured by how many things you begin, but by how faithfully you complete what you begin. Finishing becomes a testimony. It proves that your life is not ruled by mood, distractions, or fear. This key point also reframes how you evaluate your own life. Instead of asking, "How busy am I?" you begin to ask, "What is being completed through me?" Instead of measuring your value by how many people need you, you measure faithfulness by whether you are bringing the entrusted work to a worthy finish. This creates a different kind of peace. Peace does not come from having no responsibilities. It comes from carrying the right responsibilities. When you adopt this model, you stop living in fragments and start living in alignment. You define the assignment, guard your focus, obey consistently, endure the costs, and finish with integrity. You learn to do the present work completely before chasing the next work endlessly. And as you commit to finishing, your strength returns, your mind becomes quieter, your decisions become cleaner, and your life begins to carry a sense of purposeful direction that scattered business can never produce. Key point number 4 exposes a trap that catches sincere, hardworking people. Distraction often wears the disguise of service. It does not always come as temptation, rebellion, or laziness. Many times it comes as responsibility, requests, emergencies, and noble causes. It comes dressed in the language of kindness, teamwork, and sacrifice. Because it looks like love, we rarely question it. We assume that if something helps someone, it must be right for us to do it. But a person can be constantly serving and still be moving away from their assignment. Service becomes distraction when it pulls you out of your lane and into a life of reacting rather than leading. You wake up responding, you spend your day reacting, and you fall asleep with unfinished priorities. You feel needed, but you do not feel aligned. This happens when your yes is driven more by pressure than by purpose. You start to live by other people's urgency rather than by your own calling. In that condition, even good deeds can become a form of disobedience, not because helping is wrong, but because helping everywhere becomes a way to avoid finishing what you were meant to finish. One reason this disguise works is that it appeals to our desire to be valued. Being needed feels like being important. When people ask you for help, you feel significant. When you solve problems, you feel competent. These feelings are not evil, but they are dangerous if they become your compass. If your identity is tied to being the one who always shows up, you will keep saying yes even when your inner life is shouting no. You will keep stepping into roles you were never assigned because the approval of being useful can become addictive. Another reason distraction disguises itself as service is guilt. Many people carry a quiet fear that saying no is selfish. They equate boundaries with hardness and focus with pride, so they volunteer for tasks they cannot sustain, then they resent the very people they were trying to help. They become tired, impatient, and emotionally short. Guilt-driven service often produces less love, not more. Healthy love includes wisdom. Healthy love recognizes limits. Healthy love is willing to say, "I cannot carry that," so that the work you do carry is carried with excellence and joy. Distraction also uses spiritual language. It tells you, if you were more humble, you would do it. If you were more available, you would say yes. If you truly cared, you would sacrifice. Distraction also uses spiritual language. It tells you, if you were more humble, you would do it. If you were more available, you would say yes. If you truly cared, you would sacrifice. But real humility is not the same as endless availability. Humility does not mean you have no direction. It means you submit to the right direction. Humility can say, "This is important, but it is not mine." Humility can step back and allow others to grow. Sometimes the most loving act is not to take over, but to empower. Service as distraction also appears through comparison. You watch others doing many things and you think you must match them. You see someone leading an initiative and you feel behind. You hear about someone's involvement and you feel pressure to join. This comparison can make you collect responsibilities like trophies. But your life is not measured by how many tasks you carry. It is measured by the faithfulness with which you carry what was actually entrusted to you. When you compare, you lose clarity. When you lose clarity, you become vulnerable to every new request. The cost of this disguised distraction is hidden but severe. It fractures attention. Attention is the currency of completion. When your attention is divided into too many small pieces, your best work is diluted. You become shallow in many areas instead of deep in one. You begin many things but finish few. You confuse movement with progress. Over time, you can look productive while your assignment remains postponed. And the longer an assignment is postponed, the heavier it becomes. Unfinished work creates mental noise. It becomes an open loop that drains energy daily. This is why discernment is essential. Discernment asks simple questions that protect your destiny. Is this mine to do, or am I the nearest available person? Is this my responsibility, or is it someone else's growth opportunity? Am I helping because I love, or because I fear disappointment? Does this request align with my season, my priorities, and my deepest commitments? If I say yes, what will I have to say no to, and is that trade worth it? Discernment turns service into stewardship. Learning to say no is part of learning to finish. A clear no is not rejection, it is direction. It is a boundary around your assignment. It is a way of honoring the limited days and limited strength you have been given. When you say no to what is not yours, you protect capacity for what is yours. And when you protect capacity, you protect consistency. Consistency is what produces completion. Without consistency, you live in bursts and crashes. This key point does not teach selfishness. It teaches order. It teaches that you must first carry your own assignment with integrity before you start carrying other people's assignments. It teaches that scattered service can become a form of avoidance. Sometimes we help everywhere because we are afraid to face the one work that requires courage, patience, or long obedience. Serving becomes an escape from finishing. But when you face your assignment, you become stronger, clearer, and more useful, and then your service becomes a blessing rather than a burden. When you recognize distraction in the close of service, you begin to serve differently. You serve with focus, not frenzy. You serve from overflow, not from emptiness. You serve with clear limits and honest communication. You stop rescuing and start building. You stop reacting and start prioritizing. You stop chasing approval and start pursuing faithfulness. And you discover that the most powerful service is not doing everything for everyone, but doing the right thing with your whole heart until it is fully complete. Key point number 5 teaches a principle many people ignore until life teaches it the hard way. Unfinished work delays breakthroughs. Breakthrough is not usually a sudden gift dropped into a careless life. It is often the outcome of alignment, persistence, and completion. When something is left incomplete, it creates a gap between intention and reality. You may have desire and effort, but the pathway is still unfinished, and what is unfinished cannot fully carry you into the next level. Unfinished work delays breakthrough because starting and finishing produce different results. Starting creates motion, while finishing creates outcome. Many people live in the excitement of beginnings, new plans, new promises, new commitments, new routines. The beginning feels powerful because it is full of hope, but hope must become harvest, and harvest comes at the end of a process. If you stop in the middle, you stop before the stage where the fruit becomes visible. You might be close, but close is not complete. Unfinished assignments also delay breakthrough because they become open loops that drain attention. Every incomplete task quietly consumes mental space. Even when you are not thinking about it, It sits behind your mind like a background noise, producing stress, guilt, and distraction. When many things remain unfinished, your inner world becomes crowded. Your focus weakens. Your peace leaks, and your decisions become cloudy. Breakthrough requires clarity, but clarity is difficult when your mind is full of unfinished weight. Unfinished work delays breakthrough by weakening trust. When you repeatedly leave things incomplete, you begin to doubt your own word. You hesitate to commit because your history tells you might not follow through. Others also become cautious. They may admire your ability, but they cannot depend on your delivery. Reliability is part of readiness. Many opportunities come to people who have shown they can carry responsibility to completion. When completion is missing, doors that require trust tend to remain closed. Unfinished work delays breakthrough because it breaks momentum. Momentum is created when consistent actions stack into progress. Every time you finish something meaningful, confidence grows, skill increases, and courage strengthens. Completion teaches your mind, I can follow through, but constant switching destroys momentum. You keep paying the cost of restarting, shifting attention, reloading context, rebuilding energy. You become busy but not advancing. Breakthrough often rides on momentum, because momentum carries you through resistance and fatigue. Unfinished work also creates vulnerability to distraction. When you are behind, everything starts to feel urgent. When everything feels urgent, you lose discernment. You jump to the next demand because you feel pressure, and the next demand becomes another unfinished item. This creates a cycle of disorder where tasks multiply faster than you can close them. The enemy of completion is not only laziness, it is scattered effort. Scattered effort produces slow progress, and slow progress often produces discouragement. Many people avoid finishing because finishing has a cost. Finishing forces decisions, and decisions create accountability. A finished product can be evaluated, criticized, or rejected. An unfinished idea remains protected by potential. Potential is comfortable because it cannot be tested. But breakthrough does not come through protected potential. It comes through completed obedience. There is a moment when you must release, submit, deliver, and stand by what you have done. Without that moment, growth remains theoretical. Unfinished assignments delay breakthrough because they delay maturity. The beginning of a task is fueled by emotion and novelty. The middle of a task is fueled by endurance. The end of a task is fueled by character. Perseverance, patience, discipline, and humility are developed when excitement fades and work remains. If you quit in the middle, you avoid the very stage where your strength is formed. Many breakthroughs require a stronger version of you, and that strength is forged in the practice of finishing. There is also a season principle. Certain breakthroughs are connected to certain seasons of completion. If you leave a season unfinished, you carry that unfinished season into the next one like baggage. New opportunities may appear, but you do not have space for them because old commitments still demand attention. This is why some people feel stuck. They want a new chapter, while refusing to complete the previous chapter. Completion closes a season so you can enter the next season with freedom and focus. Unfinished work delays breakthrough in relationships too. Many people delay healing because they avoid finishing conversations. They avoid apologies, clarification, forgiveness, and boundaries. They hope time will solve what courage must solve. But unresolved tension becomes a ceiling on peace and cooperation. Sometimes your breakthrough is on the other side of one difficult conversation you keep postponing. Finishing the conversation does not guarantee instant comfort, but it creates space for truth to work. This key point also teaches you how to interpret resistance. Resistance often increases near the finish line. When pressure rises, you may assume you should stop. But pressure can also mean you are close to completion. The final stretch is where fatigue speaks loudest and doubt becomes strongest. Finishing requires courage, because the reward is often released at the end, not at the start. Practically, embracing this principle means you build a culture of completion. You define what done looks like. You reduce how many things you start at once. You close small loops quickly so they do not become heavy. You schedule time for focused work, not only urgent work. You follow through. Send the message, return the call, submit the deliverable, resolve the issue, tidy the unfinished areas. Small completions train you for larger completions. They create an identity of faithfulness. As you begin to finish, you will notice a shift inside you. Peace increases because there are fewer open loops. Confidence grows because your word becomes strong. Clarity improves because your mind is less crowded. Opportunities expand because people trust you. Strength rises because momentum returns. And you start to experience breakthrough as the natural result of completing what is already in your hands. Key point number 6 explains a critical distinction. Calling is different from opportunity. Many people assume that if a door opens, they must walk through it. If a request comes, they must accept it. If a path looks profitable, they must pursue it. But not every open door is your door, and not every good chance is your assignment. Opportunity is what becomes available to you. Calling is what has been entrusted to you. Opportunity can appear suddenly and loudly, but calling usually speaks consistently and quietly, drawing you back to the same purpose again and again. Opportunity is external. It comes through people, timing, trends, invitations, and circumstances. It often arrives with excitement and urgency, saying, "Now is your chance." It can be genuine and beneficial, yet still not be yours to carry. Calling is internal and enduring. It is connected to identity, design, convictions, and a sense of responsibility that remains even when excitement disappears. Calling is not simply what you can do, it is what you must do. The work that fits you in a way that feels weighty and aligned. The danger of confusing calling and opportunity is that you can build a life that looks successful but feels empty. You might climb quickly, earn well, gain recognition, and still feel restless because the work is not connected to your deepest purpose. Opportunities can give you movement, calling gives you meaning. Opportunities can change your location, calling shapes your character. Opportunities can make you busy, calling makes you fruitful. When you chase opportunity without discernment, you can end up constantly switching directions and living in reaction to what is available rather than what is assigned. Opportunity can also be a distraction disguised as promotion. It can flatter your ego and promise comfort, speed, and applause. But if it pulls you away from the core work you were meant to complete, it becomes costly. The cost is not always immediate. At first, it feels like growth. Later, it feels like fragmentation. Your time becomes divided, your attention is scattered, and your energy is spent maintaining a life you did not truly choose. The problem is not that the opportunity is bad. The problem is that it is misaligned. Calling, by contrast, is not always convenient. Sometimes it leads you into hard seasons. Sometimes it requires patience. Sometimes it demands discipline and sacrifice. Many people avoid calling because opportunity feels easier. Opportunity often offers short-term rewards, while calling often demands long-term faithfulness. Yet calling is what gives you the strength to endure. When you are in your calling, you can face hardship and still remain steady because the work fits. You may be tired, but you will not be empty. You may struggle, but you will not drift. One of the clearest ways to discern the difference is to examine the source of your yes. Opportunity often pulls you by external pressure. Fear of missing out, fear of disappointing people, fear of losing status. Calling pulls you by inner convictions, a sense that this is what you were created to carry, regardless of whether it is popular. Opportunity asks, what will I gain? Calling asks, what must I fulfill? Opportunity asks, how fast can I move? Calling asks, how faithfully can I finish? Another way to discern is to notice what remains when the noise fades. Opportunity is loud at the beginnings. It excites the mind and comes with novelty. But when novelty fades, what remains? If you still feel responsibilities, if you still sense this work matters, even without applause, you may be in your calling. Calling has staying power. It keeps returning in your thoughts and decisions. It is not easily replaced by the next shiny option. Timing matters. An opportunity can be right in itself, but wrong in timing. Calling includes seasons. There are moments when you must focus on foundational works, learning, building, and maturing. An opportunity that pulls you out too early can weaken your long-term finish. This is why some people rise fast and fall fast. They accepted what looked like advancement before they had the inner structure to sustain it. Calling does not rush you. It prepares you. It teaches you to finish small responsibilities before you take on larger ones. It is also important to understand that calling does not reject opportunity entirely. Calling governs opportunity. When you know your calling, you can evaluate opportunities wisely. You can say yes to opportunities that serve your assignment and no to opportunities that steal it. You stop being controlled by availability and start being guided by purpose. This brings freedom. You no longer feel guilty for declining every request because your no is not rejection, it is protection. It protects your focus, your family, your health, and the work you must complete. Many people struggle here because they want to please everyone. Opportunities often come through people, and saying no feels like refusing a person, but you can honor people while declining tasks. You can appreciate the offer without accepting the burden. A mature person learns to separate value from availability. Your value is not proven by how many things you accept. Your value is proven by faithfulness to what is entrusted to you. Sometimes the most spiritual decision you can make is to disappoint expectations so you can obey your assignment. When opportunity agrees with calling, it becomes tool, not a trap, and you move peacefully. When you embrace this key point, you begin to live with a different kind of confidence. You stop chasing every open door, and you start walking the road that was prepared for you. You become less scattered and more stable. You become less reactive and more intentional. You begin to finish what you start because you are no longer constantly switching lanes. And as you stay faithful to your calling, the right opportunities will still come, but they will come as support, not as substitutes, and you will have the wisdom to recognize the difference. Key point number 7 teaches that seasons matter, and that not every season requires your involvement, but your assignment requires your focus. Many people live as if every need is a command and every invitation is a duty. They try to be present in everything, support every idea, attend every meeting, rescue every problem, and carry every burden. Their intentions may be sincere, but their lives become scattered. They confuse being everywhere with being faithful. Seasons correct this confusion by reminding you that life has rhythms, timing, and phases, and wisdom is knowing what belongs to this phase and what does not. A season is a window of time where certain actions produce fruit and other actions produce frustration. There are seasons for learning, seasons for building, seasons for refining, seasons for serving quietly, and seasons for stepping forward publicly. If you treat every season the same, you will work against the grain of your life. You will plant in the wrong time and wonder why nothing grows. Seasons are not excuses for laziness, they are guides for alignment. They help you place your energy where it can actually become productive. This key point highlights that involvement and focus are not the same. Involvement can be wide, but focus must be narrow. Involvement spreads your attention across many places and can feel meaningful because you are needed. Focus gathers your attention into one central assignment and protects it until it is complete. Most people do not fail because they lack talent. They fail because their energy is divided. Not every season requires your involvement because seasons also belong to other people. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is to let them carry their own responsibility. If you step into every situation, you may unintentionally prevent others from growing. Constant involvement can become a form of control even when it is disguised as help. There are seasons when others must learn, lead, struggle, and develop resilience. Your absence can create space for their maturity. Wisdom learns when to help and when to step back. Seasons also protect you from the tyranny of urgency. Urgency is loud. It creates pressure and demands immediate attention. But urgency is not always importance. Many urgent matters are temporary noise, while many important matters are quiet and slow. If you chase urgency, your life becomes reactive. You jump from one fire to another, and your assignment becomes the thing you handle when you have time, which means it becomes the thing you never finish. A focused person learns to ask, is this truly required in this season, or is it simply loud? That question restores control to your schedule and strength to your spirit. Understanding seasons helps you accept limits without shame. In one season, you may have capacity to take on extra responsibility. In another season, you may need to narrow and protect your energies. A season of intense work may require fewer social commitments. A season of family care may require reducing extra projects. A season of learning may require saying no to leadership roles. These adjustments are not failure, they are maturity. When you ignore limits, you burn out. When you honor limits, you build endurance. Seasons reveal priorities. When life is comfortable, you can pretend everything is equally important. But when pressure increases, you must choose. Choice exposes what you truly value. A person who understands seasons chooses according to purpose, not popularity. They do not measure decisions by applause. They measure decisions by alignment with what they must finish. This is why seasons produce clarity. They force you to separate what is essential from what is optional. There is a hidden danger in trying to live in too many seasons at once. You can attempt to build while also constantly rescuing. You can attempt to grow while also endlessly distracting yourself. You can attempt to heal while also overcommitting. These mixed seasons create inner conflict. Your body is in one place, your mind in another, your heart in another. You become tired because you are carrying contradictory demands. When you accept your true seasons, you stop fighting yourself. Your assignment requires your focus because your assignment is often the one thing that will not shout for attention. Distractions shout, requests shout, emergencies shout. Your assignment often speaks softly, inviting you to return, continue, and finish. It requires deliberate commitment. Focus is a form of love toward your future. It is the decision to protect what you are building from what is merely consuming. When you give your assignment sustained attention, you create momentum, and momentum turns small daily steps into finished outcomes. Learning seasons also means learning timings. Sometimes you are tempted to act too early, and sometimes you are tempted to act too late. Acting too early can create unnecessary struggles. Acting too late can create missed openings. Timing becomes clearer when you ask what this season demands. Is this a season for preparations, where you gather skill and discipline? Is this a season for execution, where you apply what you have learned? Is this a season for consolidation, where you strengthen systems and close gaps. These questions help you choose wisely. One practical test is peace. When you are in season, effort feels heavy yet ordered. When you are out of season, even small tasks feel tense. Another test is fruit. What grows with little strain, let those signals guide choices. When you embrace seasons, you stop living under guilt and start living under guidance. You stop trying to carry what is not yours and start carrying what is. You stop measuring your life by how much you touched and start measuring it by what you completed. You learn that saying no can be obedience, that silence can be wisdom, and that absence can be love. As you give your assignment focused attention in the right seasons, you begin to see steady growth, deeper peace, and the strength to finish what you were called to do. Key point number 8 says that finishing is spiritual warfare because starting is celebrated, but finishing is crowned. The greatest battle is rarely at the beginning. In the beginning, energy is high, people cheer, emotions are strong, and hope feels easy. Beginnings feel clean. They come with plans, new habits, fresh goals. You receive encouragement because beginnings are visible and exciting. But the real struggle begins after the applause fades, when the work becomes repetitive, when results are slow, when opposition appears, and when feelings no longer carry you forward. Finishing becomes warfare because everything competes for your attention. Distraction does not need to destroy you, it only needs to delay you. It only needs to interrupt your consistency and keep you cycling through new starts so you never reach a completed outcome. This is why finishing requires a different strength than starting. Starting often needs inspiration, but finishing needs endurance. Starting needs courage to begin, but finishing needs courage to continue. Starting happens once, finishing happens daily. The warfare of finishing is also internal. Your mind becomes a battlefield where voices argue against perseverance.